This shit hard as hell. Like, I thought it was just gonna be like FaceTime and you just like accept, record, bam.
Bam. You look so cute though. Okay.
Thank you.
I
You
need
look
to
cute
take,
as well.
I need to take a deep breath.
Yeah. Do your breath work, babe.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Five, four, three, two, one. Cheyenne.
I don't like doing this.
How do you normally do your threes? No, you don't. No, you don't.
Look, I can't bend my
No.
pinky.
You do five, four, three,
But you did this, so I got embarrassed. So I tried to do it, but my pinky doesn't bend. Look. Just don't put up numbers. That's what I do.
I haven't laughed that hard in a long time. Probably
That's
since
how I do too.
our last podcast episode. Neither. I think that we should retry. Okay, ready? Five, four, three, two, one.
Hi, welcome
Hi.
back to Hard to Be Humble.
Episode 4. Here we are. Here we are. We have had a very difficult time getting here. So I am very, very grateful that we have finally made it, that we are here, that we are together. That is what.
Yeah, it just took us a good hour to figure out how to set this up so that we could virtually talk to each other, record it, audio.
Getting our microphone set up, it was a big ordeal. This is what we did last time too, though. We started our episode out on such a horrible, like, negative note. Like, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know how to do this. We don't know what we're doing. This is our first time living life, just as it is for the rest of you. So thank you for forgiving us for our many mistakes. And anyway, Cheyenne, why don't you give us some positive energy? Tell me what you have been up to.
Oh, well, Christian and I just celebrated our 2-year anniversary. Why are you laughing at me?
Oh, well,
I feel weird that you're not here with me, kinda.
I know.
Like I'm like in my office by myself. Like
It's okay. It's like a but
we just celebrated our 2-year anniversary. So we went to Colorado 2 weeks ago and we also just bought our very first. Why are you laughing?
I can't be serious. This is kind of hard for me. It feels really funny. Sorry. I haven't even heard about your Colorado trip, so I am very excited to hear. I'm just really happy to be here, okay? I love hanging out with you.
It doesn't feel like it right now.
Okay, so you went to Colorado for your 2-year anniversary and you
And honestly, it was weird. Colorado people are okay. I don't know, like, I shouldn't say Colorado people. I should just say the area we were in was kind of weird.
where did
The
you go?
vibes were
What area?
like, we went to Durango.
Durango.
So, yeah, we were expecting, like, the people were honestly not really that friendly. Like, it's a tourist town too. So, we were thought, like, they would want us there. And they acted like they didn't want us there. Which, like, I get it. Like, you have a lot of people who come to your town all the time. Like, literally, no one was from there. So, like, I get it. But I don't know. Like, it was super fun and it was gorgeous. We went on this really cool train ride, like, up in the mountains, which was so much fun. But I would probably never go back there again because I already went on the train ride. And that's, like, the only thing I would tell people to go there for. And then we also just bought our first camp trailer kind of thing. And I'm so excited to go camping now and have water, and because we always just kind of be sleeping in our vehicles and it just gets uncomfy, like
You guys, yeah, you usually do rough it and sleep in the back of your truck, huh?
yeah. So, girls need the bathroom and just having an area to clean up after a day is
You're
nice.
definitely much more of a glamper than a camper. Your vibe is glamping, not camp.
Yeah. I like to go to bed clean and I like to have a bathroom. I like to wash my hands, my face. I know that's like, I like to be out in the wilderness, but like,
Well, and you're also gonna have your own space, which is so cool. 'Cause you
mhm.
have your own little space to like decorate and clean.
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
so
that's so
excited.
fun. And you're such a wife. It's crazy. And 2 years you've been married. 2 years.
I know, it's so weird. It's coming up on 4 years of us even like knowing each other, which that just does not seem like 2020 was 4 years
It's so
ago.
crazy. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
I was there the very first time that Cheyenne and Christian ever met. And I met Christian before Cheyenne did. So Christian and I have known each other for what, like 7 years now, which is
Yeah.
cool. So crazy. One thing about Christian is that he's always just been very like Christian. Like he lived with one of our friends, Colin, and Colin would throw these crazy parties, and Christian would always just like sit in his room and hang out with his lizards and his snakes. Like that is literally what he did. But he was always just like there. Like Christian was always there. But I was there the very first night that they met, and I always like to tell people like small little flex, small little brag that I feel like I was one of the very first, if not the only people to encourage Cheyenne and Christian dating. I was
Yeah.
I was kind of doing it for selfish reasons at first because my boyfriend at the time was building Christian's house and I never got to see him. So I was like, Cheyenne, will you date Christian so that like we can all hang out together? And everybody was like, no, it's not gonna happen. It's never they're never gonna work out. That's never gonna happen. And I was like, no, Cheyenne and Christian need to date. And so I feel like I had a little bit to do with that. So that's cool.
It was so weird how we started dating. Like me and Christian would talk about it all the time, especially since like everyone told me Christian wasn't gonna date me. Like even Kaden, his cousin, was like, Christian doesn't date girls, like seriously. And so like
We thought Christian was swinging the other way for a minute because he was
literally
anti-girl. He wanted nothing to do with any girls. And he's so awkward. He still is so awkward, but like
yeah, well, I love that about him though, because like there have been times where other girls will talk to him. I don't have to worry about a thing. This man gives them one word at most, at most. And then he's like, I'm like, Christian, like, what did that girl say? You know, I don't know. And he's like, I don't know. He gets so awkward. I love it. But it's a pro for me because, like, you know, at least he's not like friendly with other women.
Yeah.
Like, so it's weird. It's weird how it all worked out. It's weird. It's been 4 years that we've even known each other. I don't know, that summer just feels like literally last year. That
It
like,
really does, yeah. It's even crazy
but
for me to think about 7 years ago when I first met Christian. And it's really funny too because I remember all my friends being like, "Oh, Christian's so cute. He's so cute." But like I just never thought that. Like not that I like think Christian's ugly, but it was almost like I knew he was going to be my brother-in-law before I even knew he was going to be my brother-in-law, you know? Like
yeah, like
it's
you just
weird. Yeah, like I just knew. Like there was just always like a weird like connection there, I guess. So
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's so cool. 2 years. 2 years.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it
Well,
was such a beautiful day. It was so nice. All of our family from Arizona was able to be there and they got married in the most beautiful spot. I remember the rainbow at the end of the day too, and just oh, and Christian bawled like a little baby. I bawled like a little baby. Uncle Matt, who married them, he bawled like a little baby. Everybody was crying. It was such a special day.
yeah, Christian's an emotional guy too. When every time he watches our wedding video, he cries, and I'm like, "Why are you crying?" He's like, "I'm an empath." So he's a sensitive guy. I love it.
I
But
literally just read in my book yesterday. Let's see if I can find it because it was literally right here. It's called The Mountain Is You, which I have been
I love that book.
I've been wanting to read it for so long.
Do you highlight your books?
No, but I need to.
I like to highlight my books, and I've highlighted like sentences. I'm like, okay, when do I stop highlighting? Because I just love this whole page. Like, it's such a good book.
Crying at appropriate times is one of the biggest signs of mental strength, as people who are struggling often find it difficult to release their feelings and be vulnerable. I cry all the time, so that's so cool to know that it actually means I'm just really strong and powerful and really in touch with my emotions. Thank you for coming, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. That's all. This is now the end of the podcast.
Well, sometimes I cry when I shouldn't, though. So does that mean I'm weak or strong?
We have very big emotions. This is something that we talk about all the time. And well, should we jump into I want to give a little update on my life too first.
I was just gonna try and bring that back to you because like I was over here in
Jumping the gun.
Colorado and Sage is freaking in a different country. So
I went to
talk
Europe.
about that.
Yeah, I went to Europe. I just got back from my week-long trip that I took to Europe for my birthday. And honestly, it is so crazy how everything worked out, how everything came into fruition because this is something I've been thinking about doing for the last 2 years. And I didn't think that it was going to happen on my birthday like I wanted it to. But then literally 4 weeks ago, I booked my ticket to Europe and I got to be in Paris on my 25th birthday. And it was such a spiritual experience, I want to cry even just thinking about it again. again because I felt so grateful to get to experience everything that I got to experience. I think I want to do an entire like solo episode just talking about my trip and everything that happened because God was so good to me the entire trip. Like there was even a situation where I was in Paris and I was looking at the Louvre, which is a museum in Paris, and I wasn't gonna go inside because the line was really long and the tickets were kind of expensive and my time in Paris was really short, and ended up running into one of the workers, and the worker ended up letting me or bringing me into the Louvre for free, skipping the line and giving me my own personal tour. And
That is so cool.
I was like, I think you're my birthday gift from God. Like today is my 25th birthday. And I got to go in and see the Mona Lisa, and I got to get my own little personal tour from this adorable little art historian who was just so cute, so nice, so fun. And then yeah, so that was such a blast. And it was my first solo experience. It was my first time ever going to Europe, but it was also my first time ever traveling solo. I was in Barcelona and Paris alone, and it was just such a beautiful experience. Now I want to just travel the entire world, and I actually just booked a trip to go to Costa Rica in December yesterday. So that's super exciting. It just has sparked a little fire inside of me to just get out and see the world, which is what I've always wanted to do. So it's so fun to finally see it all happening. But yeah,
I'm so happy you were able to go. I think that's a birthday you'll remember forever. So that's so cool.
forever. I feel
Yeah,
like the trip I will tell my kids and my grandkids.
yeah,
And there
for
were
sure.
places that I went that I will 1000% be going back to. There was a specific place that I stayed in England that I just kept thinking, like, I can't wait to bring the people that I love back here because
Yeah.
it was so fun. And it was so cool to get that time on my own. This last year and a half for me has been a big journey of singleness and just kind of like learning who I am and learning to enjoy spending time with myself, learning that I don't, need somebody else to help me like complete my life. Of course, I want somebody one day to like experience all these things with.
Any single men out there for sake.
They're probably not listening to this podcast, but it's always good to put it out there into the
I'm
world.
putting it out into the universe.
And everybody is for me. So thank you for everyone that can. My grandma literally told me a couple weeks ago that she puts my name into the temple every single week so that hopefully I find a nice, loving man to take care of me.
That's so nice. That is so nice of her. But
How long has she been doing that? Because clearly it's not working. Can we try something else?
you're like, did you misspell my name, Grandma? Like, did they get it? Like,
should we try a monk temple instead of the Mormon temple?
can you visit their temples? I don't know, but I am very interested in learning about what they do.
That was one of the things I saw in Barcelona was Sagrada Familia,
Ooh.
big fancy church, and that was so fun. This experience, you guys, it just solidified my belief that God is real and that he takes care of us and that he's listening to us and that he knows who we are and he wants us to get the things that we want. Like
Yeah.
I have to tell the world that because it just was so obvious to me and everything that I experienced. So yeah, that was so much fun.
Yeah, that I can't wait to hear more about it too. I feel like we have both been so busy with our lives that are so completely different right now. I'm celebrating buying a camper and you're in
2 years of
Europe.
marriage, and I was literally on the back of some random guy's scooter that I in Barcelona named Makina, practicing my Spanish and staying
I
out
love it.
until 4 a.m. with a bunch of strangers who we could hardly even communicate because my Spanish is not very good and their English was not very good. But it's so fun. One of my favorite things to do in the whole world is learn and experience new things, which is exactly what I got to do. So
Oh,
yeah.
well, I'm so happy for you.
Thank
It's so
you.
fun.
Thank
I
you.
remember telling like several of my patients, I would somehow like bring it up that you were in Europe. One of my patients is going to Europe, and I was like, wait, in Europe. And then we talked about it. She's like an older lady who's like retired. So her and her husband are just like traveling the world. And she told me that we need to go to Egypt and that was
Oh,
one
I
of the
would
places.
love to do Egypt. Oh, I would love
Yeah, but it
that.
was just so fun. Like it created a conversation for me and her, and she had been to Europe before, so she asked me where you had been and blah blah blah. And she was like, "Well, I highly recommend you guys should go to Egypt. That was one of my favorite
Oh,
places." And I
that
was
would be so
like,
fun. That would be even a more spiritual experience. To do
"Yeah,
Egypt, and I also want to do Bali. I would want to be there for a month, at least a month. Like
yeah,
you can eat and sleep and get around there for $75 a day. So yeah, there's just I want to see so much of the world. I want to see everything that I can. One thing that is hard right now with me being single and Cheyenne being married too is that it's not necessarily easy for us to like, travel together, of course, because she wants to be with her husband. And also, I'm one that I'm not necessarily like afraid of the world, and not that you are, but I think you're definitely more secure with Christian
yeah."
around, especially because he's the rain leader. So, like, you don't have to worry about anything when Christian is around. So, I can't wait for the day that I do have somebody that we can all go on couple trips together.
Yeah.
That's gonna be so fun. Like,
No, it's sometimes bad. We'll be at the airport and I'm just like, doo doo doo. I'm like, oh, did you get our plane tickets? Christian's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, what time are we landing? Like, I just shut down, just literally shut
that's
down.
nice.
But
Well, that's how it should be. You should be able to just relax and be while your man's around. That's what a real man is gonna do. He's gonna take care of
yeah.
you and let you just exist.
On Sunday last week, or whenever you were in Europe still, mom and dad were kind of worrying about Sage. I wasn't even stressed at all.
Me and Cheyenne are such intuitive people, and I kept thinking if there was something bad that was going to happen, Cheyenne and I would already know. We would have dreamt
Hmm.
about it. We would have had a negative feeling about it. Her and I both felt so safe with me, like going into everything and excited. And so that's how I just knew that, like, I was going to be protected.
Yeah, yeah. And I've had trips that you've gone to that I've been like, Sage, I have weird feelings about this
Yeah.
trip. Be extra cautious or
Uh-huh.
whatever. But this trip, I literally didn't feel that way at all, especially since you were meeting a friend over there too. Like you saw Bailey for a little bit, but mom and dad were worrying about you. And I was like, Mom, are you kidding me? I said, if any of your kids could go to Europe by themselves, the only kid that could would be Sage. Like you have nothing to worry about.
Oh,
Like
that's so
if
cute.
someone were to try and do something, Sage would handle her own, like no doubt about it. I wasn't even stressed. I was like, she's fine. Like,
I wasn't either. I really wasn't. It was a great trip, such an amazing experience. I can't wait to go back. I can't wait to take, people that I love over there. And
oh, we're going back for sure. If
um,
I die and I don't see the Eiffel Tower, I will be really sad at
it
myself.
was, oh my gosh, I can't even explain the energy that I felt. And I feel like it was such a mental picture. Like I can see it again. Like right, like I'm getting chills even just rethinking about it because seeing that something that I have heard of and seen pictures of my entire life and getting to actually see that it was real. Like, oh, it was just it was so crazy. And
Yeah.
it was just so cool. It was so eye-opening. One of my favorite parts too was when I was living my little Carrie Bradshaw moment where I was in Barcelona and I went shopping. I did some shopping. And
As you should.
I'm walking down the streets of Barcelona. I had five different bags in my hands, and it's like on cobblestone, like roads, And I wave my hand over there, and I'm like, "Taxi!" I get a taxi, and the taxi takes me to my Airbnb, and I was like, "This is it. I could die happy."
I love that you had a Carrie Bradshaw moment. We live
Me
for Carrie
too.
Bradshaw.
Me too. Me too. Yeah. Yeah. So that was that. That was so much fun. And for us to like transition into kind of what we wanted to talk about today, it's so crazy that our minds can be this like deceiving and mean to us because even though I had this experience where I was living my absolute best life, this was just last week, and I was so grateful to be alive. Yesterday, I had a really freaking rough day, like really rough. And Cheyenne said that. She was like, we're just in Paris. Like, do you realize you were just in Paris? Like,
Were you?
because I was feeling like I like said something like I'm not doing anything with my life. Like, I'm not.
Yeah, yeah. And I literally sat there for a second and I was like, what do you mean you're not doing anything? You're probably wore out because you just did a whole ton last week.
Yeah, I was on 8 different airplanes that week because I did Phoenix to Vegas, Vegas to London, London to Paris, Paris to Barcelona, Barcelona to London, London to Vegas, Vegas to Phoenix. 8
Holy
airplanes.
cow,
It was
yeah.
crazy.
That's crazy. I've never been on that many airplanes in a short
No,
time.
I was talking to our little sister Callie, and she said, I've never even been on an airplane. And I said, I was on 8 airplanes just last week.
She's never been on an airplane?
No, which we need to change. We need to change ASAP. I feel like a horrible sister. Like, I would have loved to have a cool older sister that had money and liked to adventure and go out, and she does, and I don't even give her the benefits of having one of those.
She does. She does have that. And what do we do?
I'm not even sharing the wealth and the luxury with her.
I took her to see Inside Out. I do think that when she gets a little older, that it will be easier for us to do more with her too. Like she's still at that stage where she's like old enough to start doing things, but I think the first time I went on an airplane by myself, I was 14. Here in a year or two, we'll start. I mean, like I'll fly with her. I think we could go do something,
That's
but
not good. I said for your first flight, we'll get Cheyenne there with you. We won't make you do
yeah.
it alone, but
We even just need to take her to Arizona
I
and
know.
just me and her.
Well,
So,
that was a little update on our lives and what we've been up to. But the topic of today's episode is how to deal with negative thoughts.
yeah, which I feel like is something we have recently, and by recent, I think in the last few years, we've opened up to kind of being more open with each other with having negative thoughts. 'Cause I think a lot of times people feel alone and like they're the only ones having these thoughts. And I found that recently I'll think something and I'll be able to share it with Sage, not to normalize it because I don't think that it should be normal, for us to have these thoughts, but at the same time, it is. And I think we should normalize being open about it and being able to talk about it without people being worried or scared.
That is one of my favorite things about Cheyenne and I's relationship, which, like she said, has really improved over the last couple of years. But it's the fact that we are literally able to talk to each other about anything and everything, especially lately, these last couple of months. We've just gotten really, really vulnerable and honest with each other and started to say things that I've never even said out loud before, things that I didn't think I would ever even be able to say out loud. But Cheyenne is
Yeah.
the type of person that makes me feel comfortable enough to literally say whatever is on my mind. And that has been so freeing to be able to say those things out loud. I do think that is the one of the most important parts of dealing with negative thoughts is first of all just saying it out loud. And that can be so scary, especially because saying it out loud makes it feel real. But once I have been able to finally get these things out and say it out loud, Cheyenne has always reacted with positivity, if not reacting by saying, I actually deal with that exact same thing, or I literally just had that exact same thought. And then I also feel like it gives her the space to tell me things that she might be holding inside. But yeah, just the first tip I really would give as far as dealing with negative thoughts is number one, talking about it. And I know that seems so cliche, but for an example, something that I have struggled with since I was 13 years old is suicidal ideation. I hate even saying that out loud. It makes my stomach curdle and it makes me feel weak and it makes me feel a little bit embarrassed because it's not like I want to struggle with those things. It's not like I'm proud that I struggle with those things, but that's something that has been in my mind since I was 13 and it doesn't happen all the time. But a couple years ago when it got really, really, really bad, I finally went to my parents and said, this is what I'm struggling with. And honestly, I don't know if I would have made it if I wasn't able to finally like say that out loud and tell somebody. And I feel like strengthened mine and my parents' relationship immensely. And not just that, but then it gave me space to be able to talk to them about other things that I had never talked to them about as well. And like I said, it just totally, totally strengthened our relationship. And it also just helped me heal from the things, I wasn't really able to talk about. So yeah, first tip is just talk about it. And with you talking about it, it's going to give other people the space and hopefully the confidence to talk about what they're struggling with as well.
Yeah, and I think that you're right. That is the very first tip. And I think first step in general to getting help or, like you said, talking to mom and dad about it. And I think that's really awesome that we have created that safe space within our relationship because not a lot of people do have that safe space to go to. And I think whether it's a friend or a family member, or if you don't have access to those kind of people in your life, there are other ways to talk about it with other people. And I don't know, I think that that's something so special about our relationship is that we can talk to each other about those things, and we can help each other say, okay, are you still feeling this way? And help us understand that we're here to help each other, and life is hard, and
it's hard.
And it's hard to go through it alone, especially. So I think understanding that you can't do everything alone, and that sometimes all you need to do is just talk about it.
Yeah,
And
but also that you shouldn't have to do things alone. I
yeah.
read this really cool story about Clydesdale horses and how one Clydesdale horse can pull up to Sage here with a brief interruption in the podcast, making sure that I reported the correct statistics and numbers to you. One Clydesdale horse can pull up to 8,000 pounds. If you have two Clydesdale horses, they can pull up to 24,000 pounds. But if these horses were trained together, they can pull up to 32,000 pounds. Point of the statistic is that there is power in numbers, there is power in community, there is power in relationships, and there is power in friendships. We may now return to the podcast.
That is so cool.
There's strength in numbers, and it just shows, community is important. Like, we've got each other for a reason. God gave us families for a reason. He gave us friends and community and support for a reason. And
yeah,
so we're all
absolutely.
Yeah. And it can be really hard to say it out loud. Like, even with me just struggling to say that out loud, just barely, like, it didn't necessarily feel great. Like,
no, I think it's good. And I think that you shouldn't feel embarrassed, or you shouldn't feel weak for having those feelings, And I think as we've talked with each other about those things, we realized that it's okay to have those thoughts sometimes. And I love that you always bring this up, but you always say that they're just thoughts and you don't have to do anything with them. Sometimes you can just feel that way, think that way for a second, and try your best to, put it somewhere else. Or I like to try and distract myself when I start feeling that way. Although sometimes it's hard. A lot of the times it's hard to get yourself to do something else, or to pull yourself out of feeling negatively or going through a time where you're having more negative thoughts. But I think sometimes I feel better when I just tell Sage, like, hey, I had a really bad day yesterday. Like, maybe yesterday I wasn't ready to talk about it, but today I am. And I had, which I feel like we're really good about, and supporting each other and saying it's normal, it's okay. Like, you just got back from a trip, like, you've been going for 7 days. Like, of course, when you come back to reality and you come back to your job, you're gonna feel sad again, because you're gonna be back and you're gonna be like, what am I doing now? But like, also understand that you just accomplished so much, and like, you just went to Europe. And
well, side note too is that not everybody does deal with depression or anxiety or intrusive thoughts. One of my favorite things, I like numbers too. I like numbers and I like statistics. I feel like they just stick in my brain. We on average have 70,000 different thoughts a day. 70,000. So that is why I say that sometimes a thought is just a thought, because 70,000 different thoughts, but it makes total sense. I would fight that I might even have more, because I have a very busy brain,
Yeah.
But some people, they don't struggle in that way. Our mom happens to be one of them. She's just never really struggled with depression. She just doesn't really get it. Unfortunately, our dad's side has a little bit more depression and healing and trauma, I guess, that needs to be like healed. And I think it's cool that Cheyenne and I are making such an effort to like heal that trauma and like get rid of it and talk about it, because for so long people didn't talk about those things. But if you are somebody that does struggle with these thoughts, just know that it's, like you said, not that it's normal, because it shouldn't be normal, and it sucks that it kind of is for some of us, but that it's possible to get through, and that you can find people that do relate to you and understand you, and there are people out there that understand what you're going through.
Absolutely. I just wanted to share this, but I had an experience last week where I for the very first time, got energy work done. And I know there are different thoughts about this, but for me, I'm a big energy and spiritual person, and I feel like I totally believe in energy work, anything like that. But I decided I was ready to get some energy work done, and the person that was doing my energy work reminded me that some of the emotions that we feel are not always our own, and that sometimes we need to just do nothing with them except for tell them to go away, let it go. And she also told me that sometimes talking about it for some people is the opposite of what you need to do. And she was like saying for herself, reliving situations, and she didn't enjoy talking about those things again, which I thought was interesting because I am the opposite of that. And I find that I heal the best when I'm able to say it out loud or like tell Sage, like, is this normal? I should like, what's going on.
Jen and I love
But
validation. We love validation.
yeah, like just the kind of reassurance. But there are some people out there who don't want to relive it, don't want to talk about it. And I think in those situations that her reminding me, like, you don't always have to talk about it, and you can simply just tell those emotions, like, these aren't my own right now.
Leave
Like,
it alone. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you can let it go and you can do nothing with it. And I know that sounds harder than it seems, but I do think it helps to kind of remind your brain, like, hey, I don't want to feel like that right now.
Yeah,
Like,
I've had situations where thoughts have came in that are 1000% not my own, and I have quite literally had to say, I demand that you leave me. I know. I demand that you get out of my head. Like, I don't want to think about that, right? Literally like screaming in my head, like, leave me alone. Like,
yeah,
I'm not dealing with this right now. I'm not dealing with you. And one thing that Cheyenne told me recently was that you can give these thoughts almost like for recurring thoughts, I guess. You can almost give them like a personality or like a face, and you can ask them like, what do you want? Like, why do you keep coming back up? Do you want to talk about this? Because clearly you feel like you're not being heard since you keep coming back to me. Like, so let's just sit for a moment and talk about it. And I did that. We were on the phone, and there's I don't even remember exactly what the specific thought was that I was dealing with, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a face. And the face that I saw was my own, but it was like my angry face. And it kind of just made me realize that that was like some anger that I needed to work through, which is typically my first emotion that I fall to, unfortunately, is anger. So it was just, I don't know, nice to know that it can be dealt with on my own too. Like,
yeah,
I don't always have to like tell people what is going on, what I'm thinking, what this thought is saying. And like we said earlier, sometimes it really is just a thought. Sometimes you don't have to attach to it. In yoga, they'll say a lot of times, like, just imagine that your thoughts are on a cloud and these clouds are just kind of floating on by, and you can maybe look at that thought and it is a positive thought, and you're like, oh, let's grab that one and stick it in my pocket and we'll hold on to that one. No, I don't like that one. I don't like that one. Oh, that's a good one. Let's take that one, you know?
yeah. I love that. I love that so much. I've never thought of it like that, but I like new ways to deal with the emotions in my head. So when I hear new analogies or other ways that people deal with things, I enjoy it very much because I'm like, I'm going to try that because I think there are different things that work for different people. And even though sometimes it sounds a little silly, you're like, I'm going to ask myself what I want, but like, it really works. Like,
Uh-huh.
you're like, why are you being mean to me? What do you want from me? And then you
Yeah.
realize kind of how you're acting or how the thoughts in your head are negative. And you're like, what do you want? Maybe it's sadness. Maybe it's you need a break. Maybe you need a nap. Maybe you need a Snickers. Like, just ask it what it wants.
Right.
But
Well, and thinking of how you would react or respond if it was a friend that came to you and said, "Hey, I am having a really my thoughts are really hard right now. I'm having a really hard time." How would you treat them? What would you say? What advice would you give? I love, Cheyenne, you said this just like a couple weeks ago, which it was so nice for me to hear that advice I gave you actually stuck and that it like meant something to you. But you said that sometimes when your thoughts are getting overwhelming, you'll use the tactic of thinking about nothing, which
yeah,
I mostly do when I am in yoga, but or like trying to meditate. A lot of times, during meditation, I'll have to just repeat to myself, I'm thinking about nothing. I'm thinking about nothing. Nothing is going on in my head right now. And sometimes I'll even have a thought that's like, yeah, but you're not thinking about nothing because you're thinking about the fact that you're gonna think about nothing. But it's like, nope, I'm thinking about nothing and thinking about nothing. I'm
Mhm.
clearing my mind. I'm not thinking about anything right now. And eventually it'll kind of just start to work its way in. And soon enough, you won't be thinking about anything, even if it's
Yeah.
for a split second too. I think people can be hard on themselves with meditation, thinking that you're going to be sitting there for 15 minutes in complete and utter silence. I think it's those little tiny moments of peace that actually really make the whole experience for me.
Yeah.
It shows me that it's possible. It might not be there all the time. I might not be able to make it last 15 minutes, but it's there and it's possible. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. I love that. I love that. Yoga is so healing. I need to be better about incorporating it into my life because I really do think it helps you find your inner peace so much. And just to sit down and not do anything for a minute and just focus on your body and yourself, like that's so healing and that's so healthy.
That's another giant tip that I have is movement, prioritizing taking the time to take care of your body. Yesterday, I was feeling pretty down and pretty bad, and I realized the only thing that is different today that's not the same for the last few days, that I didn't go to the gym yesterday. I didn't get any movement in. I had been in bed most of the morning, and my thoughts got pretty like mean and crazy. And then by the time I got to work and I was moving and I was going around and interacting with people and walking all over the place, my thoughts started to turn around and I started to feel better. So that's always a great one too, is movement and prioritizing, just releasing that energy. That energy has to go somewhere, and movement is a great way to get that energy out of your system.
Yeah. Well, those are some of the tips that Sage and I have found talking with each other and through experience also that have helped us in some way. And so we wanted to kind of share that with you guys. And yeah, we hope that you're able to use them.
Yeah, just to do a little recap, I think that our top and most recommended tips for dealing with those thoughts are: first, talking about it; second, maybe addressing the thought or the emotion, asking where it's coming from, why it's there, what it wants; third, movement; fourth, meditation or making a conscious effort to literally think about nothing; and I already said movement, didn't I? Yeah, movement, yoga. I love yoga. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you need somebody to watch to help you get through those negative thoughts. Sage Skinner.
Love it.
Well, thank you so much for spending this time with me today, Cheyenne. I'm so glad that we were finally able to record an episode and that this all worked out. And I honestly feel
Too.
much better. I feel so happy right now. I feel like I've been ridiculously smiling like this whole time.
Yeah,
I
no,
feel
I love that. I always feel that way whenever we end a phone call or anything. It's always just a good time, and it's nice to be able to talk about these things. And that's why kind of the whole purpose of this podcast is because we feel like people deserve to have a little piece of our conversations that make us feel so much better, you know? And so, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, reach out to us at any time too if you're ever feeling overwhelmed with your thoughts or your emotions, or like you can't do it, but I promise you, you can. You're so much stronger than you think. So we love you guys so much, and sister, I love you so much. Thank you
I
again.
love you.
Beautiful human being. You make my life better. So thank you.
You make my life better. Stop. You can make me cry.
No, me too. Me too. Okay. All right. We love you guys. See you later. Talk to you later. Bye. Bye.
I love you.
Love you.